Before we go any further, take a moment and make sure you are subscribed, because what you are about to hear is not just another story about coins. This is about something most people overlook every single day. Something small, something simple, something that has passed through countless hands without a second thought. And yet, in the right circumstances, it has the power to completely change a person's life. Now imagine this. You are sitting at home, maybe going through an old drawer, a box in the attic, or perhaps a collection that belonged to your father or grandfather. You find a few coins. Nothing unusual at first glance. Just old pieces of metal, worn from time, carrying the marks of years gone by. Most people would brush them aside, maybe even throw them away or spin them without thinking twice. But today, I want you to pause. I want you to look closer, because one of those coins could be far more valuable than you ever imagined. That we are talking about the 1 Cent Suid-Afrika coin from South Africa. This coin is not flashy. It does not shine like gold. It is not large or heavy. In fact, its simplicity is exactly what makes it so easy to ignore. Made from bronze, modest in design, and once used in everyday transactions, it represents a time when even the smallest denomination had real purchasing power. People used it to buy essentials, to make change, to carry on with daily life. It was ordinary, completely ordinary. But time has a way of turning ordinary things into something else entirely. Think about the years that have passed since this coin was first minted. Think about how many have been lost, melted down, damaged, or simply forgotten. Each year that passes reduces the number of surviving coins. And not just any coins, but coins in good condition. Coins that have not been worn down by decades of use. Coins that still carry their original detail, their original character, their original story. And that is where the real difference begins, because in the world of collectors, condition is everything. A coin that has been heavily circulated, scratched, faded, and worn might still have historical value, but its monetary value remains limited. But take that same coin, preserve it carefully, protect it from damage, and suddenly it becomes something entirely different. It becomes desirable. It becomes rare. It becomes valuable. Now add another layer to this. Not all 1 Cent Suid-Afrika coins are the same. Some were produced in higher numbers, while others had much smaller mintages. Certain years are harder to find. Certain variations carry subtle differences that only experienced collectors notice. And then there are those rare moments in history when something unusual happened during production, not a slight misalignment. A variation in the die, a detail that should not be there, or one that is missing entirely. These small differences can turn a common coin into a collector's dream. Most people never notice these things. They see a coin and assume it is just like every other coin. But collectors do not think that way. They examine every detail. They study the surface, the edges, the lettering, the design. They look for what makes one coin different from another. Because difference is where value is created. Now consider this for a moment. How many coins have passed through your hands over the years? How many did you never look at closely? How many are sitting somewhere in your home right now, tucked away in a jar, a drawer, or an old box? It is easy to assume that nothing valuable could be hiding there, that real treasures belong in museums or in the hands of experts. But history has shown, time and time again, that this is not true. There are countless stories of people who discovered valuable coins completely by accident. A man sorting through his late father's belongings. A retired worker cleaning out his garage. A traveler finding an old coin mixed in with foreign currency. Ordinary people, living ordinary lives, suddenly realizing they were holding something extraordinary. And when that realization hits, everything changes, because the value of a coin is not determined by what it once was. It is determined by what it has become. Its rarity, its condition, its demand among collectors. And demand is a powerful force. When collectors want something, truly want it, they are willing to go to great lengths to acquire it. Auctions become competitive. Prices begin to climb. What started as a modest estimate can quickly turn into something much larger. Two determined buyers can push the value far beyond what anyone expected. This is how small coins become big stories. This is how overlooked objects become prized possessions. And this is exactly what has happened with certain versions of the 1 Cent Suid-Afrika coin. Now imagine holding one of these rare pieces. Not just any coin, but one that stands out from the rest. One that has survived the years in remarkable condition. one that carries a unique characteristic that collectors are searching for. You turn it over in your hand. You examine the details. You begin to realize that this is not just a piece of metal. It is a piece of history, a survivor from another time, something that cannot simply be recreated or replaced at that moment. The way you see that coin changes completely. It is no longer just a cent. It is a possibility, and possibilities are powerful because once you understand that something so small can hold such potential, you begin to look at everything differently. You become more curious, more attentive, more aware of the details that others ignore. That is the mindset of a collector. That is the mindset of someone who finds value where others see none. Now let us talk about why coins like this continue to gain attention. As time goes on, fewer and fewer of these coins remain in collectible condition. Each year, the supply decreases, but the interest does not disappear. In fact, in many cases, it grows. More people become interested in history. More people begin collecting. More people start searching for rare pieces. And when demand increases while supply decreases, value rises. This is not speculation. This is a pattern that has been observed again and again across the world of collectibles, coins, stamps, antiques, artwork. The principle remains the same. Rarity combined with demand creates value. Now think about the generation that remembers using coins like the 1 Cent Suid-Afrika. There is a sense of nostalgia attached to it, a connection to the past, a reminder of a different time. For many collectors, this emotional connection adds another layer of importance. It is not just about money. It is about preserving a piece of history. And when history becomes scarce, it becomes valuable. Where does that leave you? It leaves you with a simple but powerful question. What do you have that you have not truly looked at? Maybe it is a small collection you inherited years ago. Maybe it is a handful of coins you kept without any particular reason. Maybe it is something you never thought twice about. Now is the time to look again. Take those coins out. Examine them carefully. Look at the year. Look at the details. Compare them. Ask questions. Because the difference between an ordinary coin and an extraordinary one is often found in the smallest details. And those details are easy to miss if you are not paying attention. But once you start paying attention, everything changes. You begin to notice patterns. You begin to see differences. You begin to understand what makes one coin more desirable than another. And that understanding is what opens the door to discovery. Now imagine, just for a moment, that among the coins you own, there is one that stands out. One that matches the characteristics collectors are searching for. One that has been preserved well enough to attract serious interest. What would that mean for you? What would it feel like to take something you have had for years and realize it is worth far more than you ever expected? It would not just be surprising. It would be life-changing, because there are coins, rare examples of the 1 Cent Suid-Afrika, that have reached astonishing valuations in the collector's market. Not because they are large, not because they are made of precious metals, but because they are rare, desirable, and nearly impossible to find in the condition collectors demand. And when all those factors come together, something remarkable happens. The value climbs, higher than most people would ever imagine, higher than what seems reasonable for something so small. And yet, it happens again and again, until one day, a coin that once held almost no purchasing power becomes the center of attention. A prize, a headline, a story that people cannot ignore. And that is where this story reaches its most powerful point. Because under the right conditions, with the right rarity, the right preservation, and the right demand, there are examples of the 1 Cent Suid-Afrika coin that have reached a value of $2 million. Yes, a single 1 cent coin, $2 million. Let that sit with you for a moment. Think about the weight of that number compared to the size of the coin. Think about what that represents. It represents the idea that value is not always obvious. It represents the reality that something small can hold immense potential. And most importantly, it represents an opportunity that most people never even realize exists. The next time you come across an old coin, do not dismiss it. Do not assume it has no value. Take a closer look, because hidden in plain sight, in the most ordinary places, there are pieces of history waiting to be discovered. And one of them could be worth more than you ever imagined.